I now have Ms. Lalita Naidu, a senior principal from Rockwoods International School with us to speak on a very meaningful topic, inclusive practices in teaching. Ms. Lalita Naidu is a long-standing educationist with a Master of Philosophy in Education. She has close to 3 decades of experience in the field of education. She has been heading schools for 25 years now. She rose from the rank of a teacher to head schools. She was the founder principal of Shadon Group of Modern Schools. She headed the Diamond Jubilee High School and Aga Khan School in Hyderabad before becoming the regional head for Aga Khan Education Service, India. For Southern Indian schools and outreach with the government of Andhra Pradesh. She is also the secretary for Indian Association for Preschool Education, a national level body and also a member of Academic Resource Group of Government of Andhra Pradesh. She has been instrumental in developing a team of young professionals who facilitated the culling out of minimum levels of learning for SCERT. She received extensive training as a master trainer in Phillips Andover, USA, Middlebury School of English, USA, and at Queen's University, Canada, on school-based assessments. She facilitated several action research projects which established the norms of cooperative learning techniques. And in addition to this, she has designed training programs and facilitated many both in India and abroad. It is so encouraging to realize that her core belief in education can be summed up in just 3 words, which she's very fond of: purpose, passion, and pedagogy. We are honored to have you here, ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Shilpa. And thank you, Ms. Priya. And thanks to IIEM and my dear friend, Ms. Sumati, who has invited me to be a part of this. It's an honor to address teachers, fellow educators, students. It's indeed a pleasure. And talking on this topic of inclusivity is something that I really look forward to, because this is where something very close to my heart. And for years, in all the schools which I have been heading, I've been practicing this inclusiveness. And when I think back about inclusiveness, it is not only in schools, but inclusiveness should be a part and parcel of our life every time, every minute. Only then can we bring about a complete transformation of the society. In fact, I was reading somewhere just today where Dalai Lama said that if we start teaching all the children of 8 years and below, meditation, the next generation will be completely free from all kinds of acts which are not socially acceptable. It was such a beautiful thought. I just thought that I should share it here with all of you. But let me begin with my small presentation on inclusiveness, and then we will move ahead. Just give me a minute and I'll be with you. So this is what I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So we should, and we strongly believe that diversity is our strength, equity is our commitment, and inclusion should be our goal. When we talk of inclusion, it means all types of inclusion, not necessarily only inclusion in terms of, the children with learning difficulties or others, but inclusion in all possible ways. So inclusion means everyone. So before I begin with my presentation, I want to share with you all a small video which is prepared by the UNICEF and covers inclusivity in totality. It's a wonderful video, and I just felt that this should be the beginning, and then none other than Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's quote, and he talks so beautifully. I happened to have the good fortune of meeting him thrice, when he was alive. And each time he left a profound influence on me. And how he talks is very childlike, but very meaningful. And it really touches your heart. So when learning is purposeful, creativity blossoms. When creativity blossoms, thinking emanates. When thinking emanates, knowledge is fully lit. When knowledge is fully lit, economy flourishes. And this is what he spoke about. It has left a very profound influence on me. And, there is another aspect of inclusive education. In fact, my own trust with inclusiveness began way back in 1992, when I had my first student who had cerebral palsy. And the parents brought him to me. And immediately there was a connect between the child and me. And believe me, at that point of time, I did not know much about inclusiveness, inclusive education, how we should cater to this child. But all I knew is, yes, he is a child who needed help. And he is the child who will be in the school. Okay, so he used to come on his wheelchair. And believe me, he had his faculties were really good. Except that he could not move or anything, but otherwise he had fantastic faculties. So that student really brought in, and from then onwards, whichever school I had, I ensure that that school becomes an inclusive school. So let me give you a little more about inclusivity and how one should take it up in a big way. And it really doesn't mean that it has to be only the schools which have to cater to, but everywhere in your societies where you live, in the places where we travel, everywhere. In this entire mission of inclusiveness of education, all are together. All students learning together. Very important. These children cannot be isolated. They have to be a part and parcel of the growing up. And believe me, I had a child, who was severely autistic. Severely autistic. He was not in a world of our own world. But, what we did was, when we got this child into the school, the mother and myself, we had educated that entire class on how he behaves, what is his, pattern and everything. All the children in the class became his supporters, and wherever, even if they are on the playground, they are playing, engrossed in something, they would have one eye on this child. That is the beauty of, it is a great education for children who are learning with children with learning difficulty, and it is completely helpful for the child who has learning difficulty. Okay, teachers giving assistance and support, focusing on the child's abilities and not the disabilities. Okay, so if you are having, for example, an annual day, you must ensure that these children are a part and parcel. If you're having a presentation, a sports day, or anything, it is our prime responsibility that these children are never left behind. In fact, this child was very good at skating. Okay, so I had a annual day. At that point of time, this child was good at skating. I said, let us do something where we bring this child along with others onto the stage with the skates. So it was like, we had this training. So every time, this child would walk into the onto the stage. So that is how we focused on each one's abilities and not on the disabilities. And it was a great learning. Teachers had to learn how to teach this child. Every inclusive class, the teacher becomes a tremendous learner. Whatever you may give, but on the spur of the moment, the teacher will come out with most innovative ideas. How do I deal with this child? What can I give him to help him the best? Then the different learning styles. We all know that each child has a different learning style, and more so when it comes to children who have some challenges, teachers innovate beautifully, honoring the needs of all the pupils equally. And this again is very important, valuing other cultures and perspectives. Never, as a teacher, as an educator, as fellow students, never should we undermine anybody's culture or anybody's viewpoint or perspective. Celebrating diversity and individuality. In fact, in our school, this month, we have what we call as celebrating differences and sharing the similarities. This is our theme for this month. Nurturing shared respect and empathy. So, dear audience, this is the crux. Children who learn together, live together. They learn from a very young age how to empathize. Okay, I had a child who had this muscular dystrophy. She was on the wheelchair all the time. And I never had any support of any support staff who will come and wheel this child. The child used to come, get off the car, and from then on, until the child gets into the car, it is the children in that class who took care of this child. So children who learn together, live together. So then comes the question, what is inclusivity? So it's a learning environment that promotes the full personal, academic, and professional development of all learners, irrespective of race, class, gender, disability, sexual preference, learning styles, and language. Beautiful, isn't it? So, all the children are one, and we need to operate on that premise. Only then we will bring about the complete value system into our education. As teachers, we don't say that I want to teach only to this set of students. Every class of ours is a heterogeneous class. So we will be catering to every single child of ours. Okay, the National Curriculum Framework of 2005 says that schools need to become centers that prepare children for life, especially the differently abled, children from marginalized sections, children in difficult circumstances. Okay, so these are the part of it. And when it comes to national policy for persons with disabilities, I chose this because, we should be very careful not to label the children. Labeling is only for jars and not for people. And, this is one thing, all of us as teachers need to be very sensitive. Never ever say, okay, this child is a slow learner. There are no slow learners. All children are the same. They have some different abilities. In fact, the so-called children with, some difficulties, when you take them on a field trip or when you take them on a picnic, you go in the bus, these children will be best dancers and the best singers. They will remember, they may not remember the facts in their books, but they will remember every single song with the complete lyrics and tune. This is the beauty. Okay, so I always tell teachers, teach them the way they can learn. When it comes to this, education Inclusivity brings in education for all. In the traditional, it is for some. Okay, flexible, individualized teaching. As teachers, you may ask me question. I have just 40 minutes. In 40 minutes, what can I do? You need to remember that back at home, you will be having 40 minutes to cook a whole meal. How do you do it? You start planning. In the same way, every teacher has to be a great innovator and a planner. Plan. And you must also, teachers must remember that, I am not the only resource in the whole school. I have my other children who are great resources too. I need to make use of them. So flexible, individualized teaching and not static and rigid, learning in integrated settings. Right? It is not collective teaching, but learning in integrated teaching. Emphasis should be on learning rather than teaching. Child-centered and not subject-centered. Holistic approach and not a diagnostic approach. Hold an examination to understand how well you taught, not how much the child has learned. So your exam has to be more holistic than to say, okay, my child doesn't know this. Equalization of opportunities. Opportunity is limited by exclusion in the traditional way. Take a curricular view. Holistic. What's a curriculum? It's the entire gamut of what we do in the school. Right from the time the child comes till the time the time goes on. What is covering the whole thing is the curriculum. Planning is made on ability and not on disability. Inclusive education is label free. So, the principles of inclusive education, no discrimination, equal education opportunities for all. Schools need to adapt to the need of the student. Equal education benefits for all the students. Okay, students' views are listened to and taken seriously. Individual differences between students are a source of richness and diversity and not a problem. Always, we must look upon a student who has some challenges as the best student, a very special. Why are they called special? Why is it called a special education? Special needs. It's very special to us. Okay, because we have to cater to this. What we do here is what matters the most. So inclusivity is not a one-off kind. It's a continuous process, not a one-time event. Okay, so therefore, all the stakeholders, students, teachers, parents, community, everybody works in cohesion. Okay, restructuring the culture, policies, and practices in school has to respond to the diversity of pupils within that locality. Providing accessible curriculum, appropriate training programs for all. Identifying and providing support for staff as well as students. In fact, all the boards in the country have given so many concessions for these children. So that is something that all should be knowing, should be aware of them. Okay, when we talk about scope for inclusion, every single child child in the remote tribal areas, working children. When it comes to working children, I must tell you one example. I had this headmaster. When I was in Aga Khan, I was working in an organization with the government of Andhra Pradesh, that time the erstwhile government of Andhra Pradesh. So we worked with some government schools. One of the government school headmaster was very creative. He said that, ma'am, if I don't work according to my students' needs, my students will be dropouts. So these children were a part of a flower picking, agricultural setup. So every morning, the children would go for picking the flowers from the plants. This headmaster permitted the students to pick the flowers. So the students would join the school only at 10:30. So he made his timings not 9 o'clock, but 10:30. To enable the students to finish their chore, come back, and then work on it. So working children, children with disabilities, girls living in difficult circumstances. Same, in a similar way, we had come across children in the remote areas of, that time it was Madhya Pradesh. And it was, these children who were living in this Chambal Valley, utter poverty. The Chambal Valley was known for the dacoits, but there was utter poverty. The girls used to live in such difficult conditions. So I was very lucky to be a part of a program called Nanni Kali, supported by the Mahindras at that point of time. And you'll find that children did not have a change of clothes. It was such a difficult situation. They had only one pair of clothes. So girls particularly, and for them, that girl was just to be married off and not sent for any education. Children with AIDS, HIV, and other chronic illnesses. Children of migrant laborers. Again, a big problem, especially, the working class, the laborers, the housing laborers, the people who worked on building sites, street children, and all other children. Bringing all these under the purview of inclusiveness is the challenge that all of us as a society need to take. What are the barriers in inclusive education? One, teachers' attitudes. Sometimes teachers' acceptance of children is very poor. They may find them not. There are some people who want to teach only the cream de la cream, only the top bracket students. But we need to understand that those children will anyway learn. Only our duty and responsibility as a teacher will be fulfilled only when we cater to these types of students. Rigid methods and rigid curriculum. In fact, before 2016, there was a big change in the entire education system insofar as inclusivity is concerned. Otherwise, in some boards, the only thing that was recognized was dyslexia. Other entire autism spectrum diseases did not come under the purview at all. It was very difficult to bring this about. So rigid methods, rigid curriculum, inaccessible environments, dropouts. Dear teachers and students, this has become a major problem now in these COVID times. Right now, you'll find that Children who are of middle class, lower middle class, little higher, they are all attending online classes. They are learning how to annotate. Okay, there is somebody annotating here. They are learning how to annotate. But there are many, many millions of children who do not have the accessibility for education during these COVID times. So what is happening? Increase in child labor, increase in early marriages for the girls. It's so sad and unfortunate. Let me disable annotation. Okay, so that, okay, and let me clear all drawings. Okay, right. Somebody was very creative in getting it done. Okay, then parents not involved, lack of teaching aids and equipment, poor quality of training. All these are barriers for inclusivity in education. Okay, negative approach, lack of physical facilities, lack of funds, lack of trained teachers, social discrimination, emotional problems, educational problems. All these are barriers in inclusive education. So many problems. We feel children don't have problems, they have lots of problems. Their problems are so many. See the poor little fellows with so much of homework that they have. Okay, they are burdened. They learn, some of the children are not interested in learning in a certain fashion. But what we do is we treat everybody with the same mantra. Well, Constitution gives a lot of responsibilities. Enabling children to stay with their families for development of healthy citizenship. We saw in the UNICEF for achieving universalization of education, developing a feeling of self-respect. So very important. Use of modern technology, social equality, and self-reliance. Aims and objectives, very clear. Education for all, protection of rights, identification of skills, and development of social consciousness. To prepare for new challenges, development of brotherhood, improve the quality of education. All is so wonderful, on paper, but one needs everybody. It's not one or two, everybody needs to work on this. Every school should become an inclusive school. Every society should become an inclusive society. The poor kids, what are the problems? If they are not able to perform, they develop an inferiority complex. Nobody understands them. There could be adjustment problems. There could be isolation and segregation. They lag behind. Students, right now, we see that they are online. Some of them did not listen. They are lagging behind. They feel the extra burden and insecurity, lack of expression. Some of the kids are introvert by nature. What does this result in? The approach of these students. I always tell one thing, that if we are able to educate children in the right way, the societies will prosper. if we are not able to, criminals, what I should say, terrorists, where are they from? They are also small, innocent children like this. How did they become like this? Some complexes, some kind of aggression that happened on them led to their behavior. That makes our role as teachers very important. Okay, teacher cannot just teach and go away. Building a rapport with that family, with the students, with everybody, only this we will be able to solve the problems. For forming new learning strategies, many things, we as teachers, we have no limit. There are many things we can do. Okay, we can make or break a child to be able to develop self-confidence in children. Provide special facilities. Special facilities reminds me of one teacher. I always give the experiences what I have of teachers. I happened to work with a set of government primary teachers. And there was this very creative lady because, government teachers generally, you will find that they do their duty, they go away. But this lady was very creative. She had something very special. Her classroom was full of teaching aids. And it's not that, she purchased or there was something expensive. Everything. She had even wedding invitation cards, which she used as comprehension for the students. Students had to read that and find out who is the bride, who is the groom, when is the wedding, what is the, who are the invitees, what is the kind of language they have used for invitation, for drafting that invitation. Beautiful, amazing with nothing, with all the wrappers and, waste which we throw away. She made beautiful. In fact, she took these toothpaste boxes and matchsticks and, these big seeds. She drilled a hole in them and she used them as abacus to teach the place value of things. Beautiful ones, amazing, I should say. So it is how we as teachers bring about, look after the special needs, recognize the hidden talents in every child, inculcate a positive attitude in all children. Cooperative learning, teacher must always remember that other than her, she has a bunch of students who are her assistants. That's where peer tutoring comes into place. Multisensory learning. Make them experience every little thing. Design of classroom, size of the class, teaching aids, restriction of time, arrangement of light also is very important. Attending to the physical needs and special attention. If there's a child who has got some visual impairment, ensure that the child sits in the front. Reforms in curriculum, use of teaching aids, simpler curriculum, adequate facilities. I feel, our curriculum is very, very simple. We complicate it a lot. If you are taking it simply, using your graphic organizers, using the mind maps, using tables, this makes the children's learning very joyful. Participation in games, cooperative curriculum, providing reading material, participation in various curricular activities, multi-level and flexible curriculum. So our main aim is all special needs children need to be mainstreamed. they need to be encouraged. For this, our textbooks also have to be very colorful. In fact, I had worked, along with my team, we worked extensively in modifying the the books of the state board. The state board books were very drab, and we used to always tell that nobody would want to keep them in their hand also. So that those books were completely modified. And now if you see the state board books, they are beautifully designed, very colorful. Okay, even NCERT, if you see NCERT primary books, very colorful, and the best brains in the country have designed it. Okay, giving special training to teachers, special care of special children, improve methods of teaching, provision of required resources. So these are all essential components. Once again, what is inclusion? Needs of the whole society. Understanding our school community. Celebrating diversity. Valuing everyone. Valuing others' cultures. So it is not one person, but every single person's responsibility. It is not a policy, it is not an act, but it is a way of living. The right to education for every single child is a given and not something which one should be fighting for. So this is what it is, my dear. Long one, but I don't know how many of you all are sleeping there.
Not at all, ma'am. Long one, but a very useful one.
Yes, if you have any questions, you can ask me. But this is something I'm very passionate about, and I know that Sumati ma'am always knows this very well too. And this is the reason why she chose me for this topic, I suppose. Yes. Any questions? Yes, you can unmute. Have they all hard muted, Priya ma'am?
Ma'am, they can unmute.
You can unmute and ask if you wish to.
Lalita ma'am, this is Annam here, Annam Subramanian from Deans.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, please.
How is it possible to have an inclusive classroom with children who have different levels of skill sets, abilities? How do we differentiate the lesson plans and how do we differentiate the assessments with time constraints?
Very good question, ma'am. Very good question. Let me tell you this. You have a class, okay, ma'am, in which you will find that there are 2 students who have special needs, right? So what you need to do is, I always tell them one very simple thing what we used to do is, these children cannot write long answers. So the simple mantra was, the long answers need to be converted into multiple choice questions or graphic organizers with blanks or skill-based questions, like a flow chart or something like that with empty boxes which the children can fill up. Okay, the other strategy is, ma'am, these children need not write the test along with the others. They can write it post the class hours. The other thing is, you can ask one of the parents of another child if they can come and sit next to the child, explain the questions, not the child's own parent, but someone else who can come and who can assist this child. I used to have a lot of these people coming and helping out in the, during examinations and tests. who come, they sit next to this child and they will explain, because many of these children, reading will be a problem for them. They would read it out and explain, and this is an acceptable norm even in the board exams. Board exams, they are given a scribe, they are given extra time, and they are also given exemptions from certain subjects. So as a school also, you can take a call that you can exempt them. Instead of them learning 2 languages or 3 languages, they learn only 1 language. They can be exempted from other languages.
Yeah, ma'am, on that note, I mean, we have at Dean's, we have a separate team of special educators who have been trained to educate those children. But here comes the challenge of parents accepting the problem. Many parents do not want them to be sent to special educators. They want their children to be in the mainstream class where the children struggle and they are the ones who are affected, because they are not able to understand very long instructions, all the deadlines given for the children who can perform, and they just feel like they are left out. Even if teachers are doing their level best, children are the ones who are struggling between the system and the parents, because no matter how the schools try to convince them to understand that we have a team of special educators where your child will get individual attention, 5 students for 1 teacher, rather than putting him in a class of 30. So how does the child benefit from this, double blow kind of,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. This is where, the parent counseling also plays an important role, because there are many parents. I had a couple, whose child had severe learning difficulties, and their acceptance level was very poor. And surprisingly, both the parents were very highly educated, both were scientists. They once came and they told me also, ma'am, my child's grahastiti is not good. So in another 2 years' time, he will be perfectly okay. So I had to take almost, my teacher and myself, we had to take almost a whole half a day trying to tell them that it is not grahastiti. He has learned. If he addressed this, he would improve. Okay, and this acceptance of a parent is the most tough part of, our special needs education, and sometimes parents can be very toxic also, ma'am, in their acceptance. Yes. It's a very tough job.
It is very disheartening as a teacher to see the child suffer. And after we have started the online classes, we can literally see the child getting 80-90%, and we know it is not that child who is writing the test, because obviously they're getting help. But somehow it is not going to help the child in the long run. If it has been addressed in the right stage, these children will flourish. If they have that individual attention, they will really flourish, and they might choose open schooling, they might choose a flexible education system, but at least they will have a good aptitude to take care of themselves in future. So somewhere I feel this is the obstacle, this is the hurdle in the child's process of learning, parents sometimes.
Absolutely, see, sometimes, at a very early age, if you are able to identify the preschool grade 1 level, and you will find that with the parental acceptance, I have seen many success stories like this. With good parental acceptance, once these children, come out, that by the time they reach grade 6 and 7, you will not find any learning difficulties at all.
Yes.
They are normalized, their entire thing, unless, and we used to, as a principal, I knew, and maybe, my coordinator knew, or, my primary head knew, but others did not know. When they came to higher grades, we never told anybody also, because the child was so normal, participating and doing so well in life. So that is why, it is a very tough call on parents, to accept this and come to the forefront.
It's very glad to hear your inputs, ma'am. I mean, it's good to see that you agree with what I said, and that's the highlight of the whole conversation. It is a realistic, realistic challenge that we need to address first before we talk about the inclusive element in, NEP, the whole thing. So the parent counseling, which you said, I think schools have to make it a mandate, when they think it's the child who is victimized in the whole thing. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I think with this, we will be able to conclude the session. Thank you very much. Thank you, IIEM, and all the participants and everybody who are a part of this.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. It was fantastic to understand your reflections on the practices that you shared. Thank you so much. Dear participants, request all of you to please fill in your attendance sheets. Make sure there are no extra characters or any spaces when you are typing your email ID, because this is an automated certificate that you will be receiving. Thank you. We now have with us the quizzer from Q-Shala. Komal, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, Lalita ma'am, for this beautiful session on inclusivity. I think we as quizzers also had got a lot to learn from the session. And here we have another round of questions. You know the drill, that you have to send in your answers on chat box. Please try to send in your answers directly to me at Komal_Q-Shala. And here's your question on screen. 1 second. Let me put it on slideshow mode. And yes, here it is. Going ahead with the theme of inclusivity, in 2021, Burger King launched a special burger to make it inclusive towards certain customers. The sesame seeds on the bun were arranged so it would tell its customer what they are about to eat. The question is, for which group of people is burger made of? Which group of people was this burger, which has sesame seeds on top of it, giving its nutritional value, was it made of? Was it made for? It was catering to which group of people? I've already got a couple of responses, and it's so lovely to see that you all got the point. And Lalita ma'am is the first one to respond. But I know, ma'am, that you have the right answer. I would want others, and I'm very sure that you know it right out there, but I would want to give chance to probably Smita Cherian, ma'am, if possible, if you can come on off mute and share.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, myself.
Yes, Smita ma'am, go ahead. What do you think is the answer?
That is the vegetables and the nutritional value that they want to convey to the blind people about that. So when they touch and feel that before eating, they can get that. What is that value the companies they want to.
You are right, ma'am. You are absolutely right. It is for blind people. The sleeves are arranged in Braille. Braille is a written form of language for blind people, as Lalita ma'am rightly suggested. And it was to give nutritional information of the burger for the same group of people. Thank you so much for responding. And Lalita ma'am, do you have anything to add?
Well, ma'am, but most of the today in our country and all countries in the world also are completely catering to the visually impaired people. In fact, when you get onto the lift, you will find that the lift buttons have braille on it. And then, at different places, I actually did not know about that. And I happen to have a very close friend of mine whose son, he's a brilliant boy, he's doing he's completely blind, but he's now a researcher with Microsoft at, Seattle in Washington, in USA. And you will find that, he has, once we all went for a movie along with him, and he was telling me, Auntie, you know what, there is this braille here, I'm able to make out. So that is how I came to know that, yes, this is what is given, it's beautiful.
Thank you so much for sharing, ma'am. Also request Smita ma'am to please share her phone number. You can share directly with me so that we can process the prizes. And here's the next round of question, which is again a connect type, where you have to see how the pictures are related to one another and pointing out to one single theme. All these pictures have one thing, one connection in common. Please make sure that you send in your answers directly to me at Komal_Kushala. And I think I'm still waiting for a lot of answers. A couple of you are able to share the specific picture clues, but what we are looking for is the whole theme of questions. Yes, okay. I can see Mangalyaan on chat. I would also want to know what is it that is connecting Mangalyaan to all of the rest of the pictures. At bottom, you see Vidhan Sauda, which is in Bangalore. So probably that will also add a hint to the question. And finally, I have gotten a couple of responses which are very accurate in their answers. Probably I can ask Manjushri ma'am. Manjushri ma'am to please come off mute and share why do you think? What is the answer and why do you think so?
I wanted to highlight because ISRO is one which we have been successfully that the Mangalyaan movie shows us how we have actually landed there. So yes, and these are all people who are connected with science, be it from the traditional ancient India or during the independence or after independence. So that's how I felt like it's.
Well, ma'am, happy to say that you are absolutely right. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Yes, the correct answer is ISRO. And you can see the picture of Aryabhatta, who inspired to give us a name of satellite. We have Vikram Sarabhai, who was founder of ISRO. We have also ISRO logo. Vidhan Sauda, which says that its headquarters are located in Bangalore. We have Dr. K. Sivan, who is ISRO's chairman, and it was founded on 15th August 1969. And as you rightly suggested, the picture Mangalyaan portrays the first mission to Mars. Thank you so much. With this, we come up with the second answer of a second question. Thank you so much for your engagement and would want to ma'am to share her phone number again with us. Thank you for participating in questions of Kushala. We at Kushala are all about questions, sparking curiosity through quizzes. Please feel free to reach out to us with the information that I provide on chat box. Thank you. Over to you, Priya ma'am.
Thank you, Komal. It's such an energy after every session that we have with you. So I thank all the participants who are actively participating when there's a question that's popped. So hats off to you. We'll be taking a lunch break and we all would be meeting at 1:55 for the session to start at 2. Request once again all the participants to fill your attendance sheet. Please make sure there are no spaces, no extra characters.